Today's October 17th. Jared Triolo has been named a finalist for a Rawlings Gold Glove Award for the utility player. Let's take a look at the 2025 DH options tonight and more. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yins guys, thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh, and my brother Jake is at the Saints game, Saints-Broncos game. I guess he's at the Broncos game, not the Saints game. But he's there in New Orleans at the Saints-Broncos game. I guess I should probably check and see how that game's going. When does that start? That's one of those things. But Uncle Jake is at the football game, and his Broncos are winning 13-3 right now with 1:52 left in the first half. So, you got me. And the Dodgers are on Cleveland. What a game today. A walk-off homer. Big time game 3 for Cleveland. Unbelievable. Noel with the big homer in the 9th. David Fry with the home run to walk it off. Unbelievable game. This postseason has been so good. It's been so good for things like this, for the drama of it, for all that. I don't care what you think about, well, yeah, but this team's payroll and that team's... Throw it out at this point. The postseason's been really good. And I'm here for it. So, there's that. We're going to go ahead and let's run down what we're talking about tonight. Jared Triolo, Gold Glove, as I said there in the open. We're going to do our positional check-in this week. Designated hitter, we only have one left. We only have one position left. But we'll go over the DH tonight. A couple other things, but pretty good day for baseball right now as far as the games and everything. So, Bucko Mike in the chat. How you doing, Mike? Yeah, no, it's been really good. Right now, it's a one-run game between the Dodgers and Mets. Dodgers have got a lead there. They could really, they're ahead by one. They could be one game from sealing the deal and going back to the World Series. It's been a while. I know they're the Dodgers, and I understand all that, but if you're one of those people who don't count 2020, I tend to think it was a harder year because of the craziness of it. I think there were good teams that fell early and didn't make it. There were bad teams that just played hot for a few games and made it, as far as to the postseason. So I think 2020 was an accomplishment. All that they had to go through, it was an accomplishment in and of itself, but it's not this accomplishment. A full season, 162, all the way through the playoffs. It's not that type of accomplishment, and the Dodgers still have yet to get over that hump for the first time in a very long time. What is it, like the 80s? Did we just look this up not too long ago? Because I wasn't sure. But it's been a long time for the Dodgers. Regardless of money, regardless of whatever. The last World Series they won that wasn't 2020 was 88. Oral Hershiser, Tommy Lasorda. What a crew. I used to love the Bulldog, man. I was just a kid. I used to love the Bulldog. Anyway, right now, our boy Quintana's out of the game. But, yeah, Dodgers. Listen, I don't hate the Dodgers. If you've heard my story about the Dodgers before, I don't hate the Dodgers. Vince Scully kind of did it for me. We first got married. We were in an apartment. We didn't have TV. The only thing we got was MLB TV so that we could watch the Pirates when we moved to Indiana. We were only there for a year, but when we moved to Indiana, we had MLB TV so we could watch the Buccos. I remember watching that stinking 19-inning game that year, 2012, that basically ruined the season, meals with the call at home. Yeah, anyway. Every night we would watch the Pirates game, and then we didn't have TV. So we would follow that up with, well, essentially a West Coast game. But it just really was like, I'm going to follow that up by listening to Vince Scully. And so as a result, you kind of get a little bit of, you watch the Dodgers every night. And so there were some players on that team, and there was some time that I was, a fan. My wife still likes the Dodgers for that reason. So that's everybody's got their own little memories they can put into things. And that was ours. That's why we don't hate the Dodgers. But, obviously not telling anybody not to hate the Dodgers. You don't have that memory. So if you want to hate them, go ahead. So anyway, we're going to talk about that kind of stuff. This has felt like, regardless of the games today and how I'm talking about, this has felt like the longest postseason that since I've been doing this show. This has been the longest postseason. It feels so long. I just can't remember going through this many weeks. And maybe it's because in previous years we haven't continued the Thursday shows. We've just been doing once a week. So maybe that's actually why. I didn't think that through. That's probably why, right? That's probably it. The fact that we're still doing 2 shows a week is probably the cause for why this feels like we're doing way more shows during the postseason than we used to. So, yeah, I guess that's fair. That's why it feels so long to me. I don't know, but I mean, do you guys feel long? You know what I mean? Bucko Mike, great timing with your chat here, because the very next thing on my list, I don't know if it'll be that. That's interesting though. Let's get to it for a second. Tropicana Field down in Tampa. We talked about Milton going through that area not too long ago, and the roof being blown off of Tropicana Field. Apparently, that is a big, big, big expense. And we talked about it being that it's not only a big expense, but it seems like the timeline for that is like certainly not opening day. And the interesting thing about that is their second series at home of the year is at home, and it's against the Pirates. The Pirates start off in Miami and then go to Tampa. And so this does affect the Pirates going into next year. They are not going to be in I don't want to say they're not going to be in St. Pete. They're not going to be at Tropicana Field. Bucko Mike says that he thinks it's about 120 to 150 million. I knew it was north of 100 million. What I saw was the 9 figures or whatever it was. So north of 100 million. The Dodgers. Mookie Betts doubled. Taylor and Ohtani score. It's now 5-2. Anyway, 120 to 150 million. So the cost is one thing, right? The cost is one thing. The other thing is the timing to actually do it. And the weird thing is like the Tropicana Field doesn't have a drainage system. It was a dome. So every time it rains, which is, a lot in Florida, every time it rains, they've got a mess to clean up because it's not just going to drain. So the field alone, like once they get the roof done, they've still got a lot of work to do. Pirates are not going to play at Tropicana Field next year to start the season. I don't know what's going to happen, but it looks like there's a lot of conversation. Bucko Mike brings up in the chat that they'll be playing in Bradenton or Sarasota for the Rays road trip in April. I don't know that they would do that. I don't know. Certainly not Bradenton. I don't know if what is it called down there? Something Smith Park. Is it? I keep wanting to say Lee Smith, but it's not Lee Smith. I do this a lot. Ed Smith Stadium in Sarasota. I don't think that that's going to be it either. I know that like the Blue Jays played a little bit in Dunedin, and that early in the season, they very well could do it in Florida. As it gets into the summer, they're not going to do outdoor games in Florida. There's going to be eventually you're going to realize that there's too many rainouts and all these things. Durham said no. even though North Carolina wants the Rays to play there. So, well, but the thing is, I guess it doesn't matter, right? All these teams are going to have, I was going to say AAA is going to be playing there, but maybe not that early. But Durham said no. So I don't know. There's a lot. And you hear people saying, well, they could go to Oakland, but that's not going to happen because if you think about it, like the Pirates' schedule is designed so that they can be in Florida and then moving. So there's no possible way they're going to move these games to, I mean, it would be such more, let me look at this here. If I go to 2025 and I go to March. So the Pirates are, obviously I said Marlins, Tampa. They do have Thursday off, and then they're back home for the home opener, April 4th. So, I mean, I guess they could, but do they have a day off? No, they're Marlins for 4 again. That's interesting. Marlins for 4 again, and then Monday they play Tampa. So they're not gonna do their day game and fly to Oakland and play the next day. I don't think that they're going to do that. I wonder what the Rays' schedule is. Are they home? Well, they're home for the first one too. So they would already be there if that's the case. Because they host Colorado at home on Thursday, Friday off, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Pirates Monday. So if they were to do anything different, they could, like if they were traveling, they could just move everything back and use Sunday as a travel day. But I don't know. Dunedin's probably an option. The Blue Jays have played in Dunedin. So that would be a possibility for them. Oakland. Yeah. So Bucko Mike says Oakland will be in Sacramento. So I don't see them going across. There's so many things that would have to happen. Like you're saying like, in order for the Pirates even to finish a day game in Miami, and then fly to the literal opposite end of the country, opposite corner of the country, as far as you could possibly be away, almost outside of Seattle. But, you're going all the way over there, and then, and then not only that, but like you're going to have to play a day game because the Rays are from Tampa. So you're not going to play a 7:00 game on the West Coast and make your Tampa, like your home fan base, have a game that starts at 10 p.m. You just won't do it. They'll be starting that game at 3:00 so that it's 6 or whatever the math is back in Tampa because that's the fan base, right? So, I don't see that happening. I don't know what they're going to do, obviously, but it impacts the Pirates. And so it's really interesting how they're going to handle this. But either way, Tampa's going to be somewhere else. And that's good. You guys heard that noise. Because I didn't mute my sounds. Gotta love computer noises in the middle. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to follow this story and see how it goes because I just don't know. Dunedin might work. Eventually, Buffalo, if they can switch, if they can do one of those. Steinbrenner Field's down there. My goodness, could you imagine if the Yankees let them use Steinbrenner Field? But still, Steinbrenner Field's down there. There's a couple of options down there. For them to do a spring training ballpark early on when it's warm down there and cool up north, and then maybe find their way to Buffalo or there's going to be a lot of shuffling. So we'll see where the Pirates are. I would imagine their second series of the season is going to be at a spring training ballpark. It'd be crazy if it ends up in Bradenton. That'd be wild. I just don't see it happening. I would think that they would. I don't know, though. I don't know. It'll be fun to watch. But yeah, it was funny that you brought that up right there. It was literally the next thing. Domingo Germán elected free agency, in case anybody missed that. So see you later, man. He's gone. So that's it. All right, let's talk about some gold stuff. I guess we could do this, right? Jared Triolo nominated as a finalist for the Utility Player Gold Glove Award. He didn't have enough time at one spot for this award, and because of really the groupings. A couple weeks ago, didn't we actually give Triolo the Gold Glove? our version of it for Pirates Gold Glove. I believe we did. And so, yeah, he had a great season defensively. There's a lot there to like as far as, what is it, like 3 errors combined with all the positions. So I guess the question that I'll ask here is, first off, does he deserve it? I haven't really looked at the numbers. I haven't gotten an opportunity to look at the numbers of the other guys. Just looking at it, it's like, okay, does he deserve it? Not over top of one guy, but yeah, maybe. He was really good defensively. He had a really good season. I don't think it's not Ke'Bryan Hayes good. And I know that everybody wants to be like, oh, Ke'Bryan Hayes wasn't that good. But the numbers show that if Hayes would have played as many games as Triolo, he would have been better. So as far as defensive metric and statistics and all that, when you can't say statistics, you need to take a drink. So, he was really good though. You can't compare to Ke'Bryan Hayes when it comes to defense. That's just unfair in general. So the other thing that I had on this, Clearwater, there you go, Bucko Mike. That's Clearwater's another one. I think that's Tampa, right? That's their spring training. Or Phillies. Phillies are in Clearwater. There's options down there. Anyway, what is the impact of Jared Triolo winning a Gold Glove? What do you see as an impact to this right now? Because this is a player that, where I'm sitting now and hoping that the Pirates are active in conversations to get a shortstop. If they are, which that would push IKF to that utility role, essentially, that Triolo played this year. If Triolo's not going to play that, he's essentially going to be bumped to AAA. Imagine he brings home a Gold Glove and then starts next year in AAA. I don't know if that's normal. I mean, do we know of anybody else who has won a Gold Glove and not been good enough to stay? You know what I mean? And I imagine it's possible. Maybe that's something that's going to happen with this utility player thing, because that means that this guy's not a starter already. But they're trying to award these guys for Gold Glove stuff. I mean, we're not saying Silver Slugger. He's a Silver Slugger. He's working his way towards being a starter. But we're talking Gold Glove. So, what is the impact here? Do you feel like if you're a front office for starters, and I know it's easier to say, it's easier to play with somebody else's money and somebody else's decisions, but are you then saying, well, you know what? He is more valuable. Does him winning a goal? Actually, well, let's get there for a second. Do you try not to push him to AAA is what I'm asking. Do you make an effort to keep him on the team saying this is a Gold Glover, or at least to start with the team so you can give him his award and then maybe after a couple weeks send him down? I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you balance that. I mean, you've got to have a roster that's built correctly and that makes sense. So I don't really know how you attack that, but it is kind of interesting to me, the impact that it could have on decisions moving forward. Maybe another decision is, if he wins this Gold Glove, does it increase his value that maybe he becomes a movable piece and another team would say, hey man, I'm interested in this. And then how do you feel about that? Because if you've got IKF for one more year playing that role, what you would hope is that Triolo gets a little bit better and he's able to fulfill that role the following year. Either one of those guys are going to be good players to be a security blanket for Ke'Bryan Hayes, who is a guy that we know has had a past of injuries, and you're not convinced he can play a full season at this point, especially with a back thing. I mean, there's always doubt, right? There's always doubt. And you should have you should have some doubt. You should have the ability to be able to say, I need a security blanket for this because of, you learn from the past. I'm still a believer that Ke'Bryan Hayes could be a valuable player if he could play. He just needs to play a lot. So how does that change any of this when you're thinking about moving forward and Jared Triolo winning a Gold Glove? The only other thing is how much do you value these sort of things? What's important to you about players and awards? I think there's probably a large subset of fans that would say, like, dude, I don't care. Unless they're winning, I don't care. Win games, and you can have Silver Sluggers, Gold Glovers, all that stuff, and I'll celebrate all of them because they did that while they were winning. Other than that, Gold Gloves and Silver Sluggers on losing teams is maybe just like individual pat on the back later in your career when you look back at a guy, or maybe when you go to free agency and you're looking to get a deal, you can say, bro, I've got 3 Silver Sluggers in my first X amount of years, or Gold Gloves for this matter. There's a little more value there. I'd like to get, but that's not for the fan base. That's for the player trying to negotiate a couple extra bucks or maybe another $1 million. But I don't know. I don't know how important that I hold something like this in the scheme of, like in the grand scheme of things. Like, this team let us down. This team let us down in 2024. We believed this team could be better than that. We expected this team to be better about it, mostly because they said they would be better than that, and they didn't improve in the win-loss column. Sure, individuals improved. You're always going to have that. Young players will improve every year. You may have some guys take step backs. We certainly had that. But like Nick Gonzalez is in more of our plans than he was a year ago. Most of us a year ago said, I have no idea who that is. You know what I'm saying? Now you're like, all right, he's a major leaguer. So we get that. And you could sit here and say we have several players who are better now than they were a year ago. That's fine, but the team isn't. You had guys take major steps back. You had guys that came into this thing that were supposed to help, and they hurt. The team overall, you know what I mean? Players, we can talk about players all day. And you could say, yeah, that guy's in a better place, or that guy went through this, which will make him a better, whatever. You can say that kind of stuff. But this is a team who let us down. I don't know that I care that we had a Gold Glover on that team. Matter of fact, I would have assumed that if Ke'Bryan Hayes played, he would have won it. And then for third base, and then it still would have been he won. He's the best. So, I just don't know if it is important. It's, like I said, it's a kudos to Jared Triolo. It's worthy of a good job, man. Jared, you played hard and you did something good, and you should be awarded for that. I'm all good about it, but like, as far as, I don't know. Maybe I'm overplaying it. Maybe I'm overdoing it. Maybe it's just a good thing. And it doesn't matter. I mean, is a Gold Glove ever like good for the team? It's an individual award. So I guess it might be a reason why certain things happened. You know what I mean? That's certainly a reason why he stayed on the team, because his defense was good enough to stay on the team when his offense wasn't. He did finish strong though. Not trying to, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how important it is, though. So, it's really all I got on Andrew McCutchen. We're going to move pretty quickly here. No Uncle Jake. He's at the game. Let's check the score for his Broncos. They got another field goal. 16-3. He's having the time of his life, hopefully. I don't think he's ever been to an NFL game. Well, I'll say certainly I don't know if he's ever been to a Broncos game. Why in the heck does he like the Broncos anyway? What's wrong with him? He went through a Colorado phase when he was a kid. He did. He liked the Rockies. Then eventually he just dropped the Rockies and was like, what am I doing? I think it was just They were new. He's a big Todd Elton guy. I don't know. So, all right. So let's talk about our positional check-in here. We've been going through all of the positions. We've only got 2 left. We're going to talk about the DH tonight, which means Sunday, unless something changes and we put it off longer, we'll talk about first base. Bucko Mike's got a piece already in here saying Reynolds to first, Hayes to shortstop, which is really funny, considering I just went through a thing saying we don't know if he could stay healthy. IKF to super utility role, and he's putting Gonzalez at third. So you're saying trade Luis Ortiz for a bat. I'm guessing you're saying for second base. Listen, I don't need a bat at second base. I mean, I'd like to have a bat there, of course, but Nick Gonzalez did fine there. I thought he was a good third baseman. Maybe Nick York works his way into that spot, but I mean, you just don't set a spot for a rookie like that, a young player. He's even young. It's a little different than Billy Cook, who's a little bit older. You know what I mean? York is still very young, so not jumping any guns there. I thought Gonzalez did a really good job defensively as well. I know. I guess the reason we say that Gonzalez is good defensively was because everybody told us he was terrible, and then when you watch him, you're like, well, he's not terrible. But sure, like some of the metrics still don't like him, but I mean, I liked it. I think he does. I think he turns a good double play. I think it's really important for me at second base. I mean, he's not Jimenez, but that guy's platinum, so. Anyway, if you listen to this and you're not subscribed, click subscribe down there. You know, there's no reason that we got people watching us every week who aren't subscribed when it's free. You can just click it and everything's good. Thanks. I appreciate it. All right, let's talk DH because, Andrew McCutchen's a free agent. It'll be Andrew McCutchen. If he wants to play, they're going to sign him. Bob will make sure of it, and he'll be a DH. I would think in order to keep him healthy and strong, I mean, he had we're talking about a guy who had 20 home runs. This is not a guy that has nothing left in the tank. He's probably going to have to season where he has 10 or 12 home runs before he's going to hang it up, and maybe less, maybe an injury, something like that. But this guy wants to play. He's going to play, and we could use the bat and the leadership. He was very good for this team at different times of the season in 24, where he was able to carry for a minute. He just was not healthy really at all. And if something like that happens this year, I look to see him come back and play a little bit less. Maybe he sits out at least a game every series. Something like that where they limit his time there. And by doing that, to keep it relevant to the DH position, by doing that, you're going to be able to give other guys days off. Let's say that Brian Reynolds is still in left field. I know that we're kind of juggling whether there's a left field or a first base for Brian Reynolds, and it's probably going to be decided by what other kind of moves they can make. But whatever, if he's in left field again, he'll use all of McCutchen's days off to be the DH, and that'll be it. We'll be done. Bucko Mike says, Jays trade Bo Bichette and $10 million for Luis Ortiz and lower tier prospect. Now that actually might be, you and I have had this conversation, and I think I could see this one happening. Luis Ortiz, lower tier prospect. And the only reason you're sending the lower tier prospect or going Ortiz and lower tier prospect is because you're asking them to help pay some of that $17 million that he has owed to him. But yeah, I mean, Bo Bichette could land shortstop, and I think you'd bet on him for a bounce back year. I mean, it could be good. You and I talked about that, Mike, and I would not be against that. I'd like to see what else is available. I'm not sure that if Who's the dude from San Diego? Kim. I'm not sure if Kim's available and he's attainable, that I don't just go that route and maybe fix it for more than a year. Because if you get Bo Bichette in, you're probably going to try to extend him before you even get him. So I think that's maybe a thing. Yeah, really interesting to think about. But let's stick to DH here. And like I said, if Reynolds is in left field, they'll use him in Kutch's off days at DH. Not if he's taking off one game every series. I don't think that'll happen. But I think that any of Reynolds' off days will be spent at DH. He's going to try to play as much as possible. Excuse me, take another drink here. Other than that, I mean, you're going to see days off from guys like O'Neal Cruz, days off from really anyone. You could have, if you somehow are fortunate enough to have a couple of these catchers actually hitting, with Bart and Rodriguez and Davis. If you're able to have a couple of these guys hitting like they did last year, they used Bart. I'm not saying like they had a couple of them hitting, but if they used Bart at DH a few times. I don't know that Bart. I don't know. I don't know that he's gonna. I don't know that he'll be the same hitter. I sure hope so. But he's another one that I'm just not. I'm not entirely sold on right now. I'm really looking forward to spring training and seeing what he looks like. And if something's clicked for him, that's awesome. But I'm interested to see. Outside of those guys, when you're thinking DH, so long as Andrew McCutchen wants to play and plays for this team, then I think that this is going to be his role and what their role will be on this team for him. He hasn't played his way out of that role yet. I mean, like I said, 20 homers, he's still doing things. He's, I think he still has something to give. And I think that he still wants to be a part of some sort of winning here again. And whether us fans believe it or not, those players do believe that there's something brewing here. You hear him talk about it all the time, and I understand. Oh, yeah, they're being paid by the organization, but there are decisions that they've made. There are decisions that they've made based around that. So, I don't know. Bucko Mike here says, Bart, 3 to 4 days at catcher, the other 2 at DH, maybe a day at first. Catchers like days off. I don't see that happening. Jason DeLay, the backup catcher, he says, so he's actually completely out on Davis and Rodriguez. They stink. They're busts. He doesn't like either one of them. I'm kidding. No, I don't know if I see it that way or not. I don't see Bart's not a good enough hitter to hit DH all the time. He's really not. He was hot last year. He's probably not going to be that guy. He's certainly not. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, why don't we move him to first base? He had 13 home runs in an absolute scorching hot season for him. I don't know what you're expecting. I want more from first base. If you're moving a guy over there who's new to it, I mean, you could see Reynolds hit 30 homers if he moves to first. Like, that's an easy, attainable number that you could see. He's hit 27. If he has his legs under him all the time because he's not running in the outfield, this isn't even like, I don't know anybody who would doubt he's capable, not that he will, but he's capable of 30 homers if he's a first baseman. That, to me, seems easy. Not easy for him to do, and easy to be convinced that he could do it. So Joey Bart just isn't doing that for me. He's a catcher. He'll get his days off when he's not catching. And if you have another catcher who's hitting, then I think you can find a way for them at the DH spot if you don't have somebody else to hit. But you probably got other guys that are going to do just as good as Joey Bart, or at least be more of a threat to hit the ball over the fence or anything like that. I'd love to be wrong about this. I'd love to be wrong about it, but for me, moving him to first as a non-starter, he's a catcher. Just let him catch and let him play, not all the time. I think that's better for his bat. It's better for him as a player. And sure, DH, I just don't see a point in it when you can give more guys days off and keep them in the lineup and use that DH according to stuff like that. I mean, he'll spend days there because if he's got a good matchup, but he just caught or you need him to catch or something like that, they can use him there. But he's certainly not like, oh man, I need his bat in the lineup. It just don't. I think you can do better, or at least, like I said, the potential to be better. I'd rather have a guy that I think could make an impact swing and hit a home run, even if he's 1 for 4. But if he hits a big 2-3 run homer, I don't know. I'd rather give Bart the day off to make sure that he's going to stay good. I mean, we've seen this with Connor Joe a bunch of times. We play Connor Joe at the beginning of the year. He gets red hot, so they play him all the time. And by June or July, he's done. And you'll never see it again the rest of the year. And all that is you could have got a full season out of Connor Joe if you just would have played him less. Because you just don't overexpose guys like that. And I think it's the same thing. So, that's, for me, maybe, like I said, I'd love to be wrong about it. I just don't. I think we get caught up in certain players as a fan base. I think we get caught up in certain players that maybe we shouldn't, right? That maybe we like this player because he's good at what he's doing, but then if you try to give him anything more, I think you mess that up. Ron says they won't do anything until they fill the coaching positions. I bet you. I think there's maybe some truth to that. I would imagine they would fill the coaching positions before free agency would hit, before the end of the postseason. I think that they're probably having those discussions already. They're probably talking to people already. This is typically a time to do that sort of thing, unless they're waiting to talk to somebody who's currently coaching in the postseason. Then I think they're probably already, they're at least working on their list of guys that they want to talk to. And I don't think it's really I don't know how much it will change. I'm just not sure. I am looking forward to a different hitting coach, though. I think there's a lot there. Yeah, I don't know. But as far as DH, I think it's Andrew McCutchen. I think he'll get days off. You're going to see probably a lot of Reynolds. You'll probably see Cruz. You'll probably see... I'm trying to think. You probably, like I said, you probably see a little bit of Bart. Whoever they get for the outfield, maybe those guys are going to take their turns. I would imagine that a lot like Bart, I would say for Ke'Bryan Hayes, I would think that a lot there. If Hayes has a day off, he needs to have a full day off. There's no need to send him out there swinging. I guess I got ahead of myself there because, I mean, we got to think back that Hayes might only be more valuable on the field, right? So they might not even have a desire to hit him at DH unless he's a much better hitter going into next year. So I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how they approach off-season moves in regards to that, because I would imagine that that's Kutcher's role. I don't see them saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and keep Kutcher around. He's going to play right field, and that's how much he's going to play." Like I don't think that's it. So Bucko, Mike, these are Reynolds numbers as a DH: 304 average, 6 homers, 20 RBIs, 956 OPS at DH. Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, you get a guy like this, if he's playing first base every day, his numbers are closer to this because he's got his legs under him. He's not out there running around. On the days that he's got less to do, man, he sits into those legs so much that they're so important to his approach. Like, geez Louise, like you could have, and I think that's what he's saying here. He's a 30 homer guy. If you could just save those legs a little bit. I think for me, that's the biggest thing. I like that for Reynolds more than I like that for Reynolds more than I like getting Reynolds out of the outfield because he's bad. You know what I mean? Gary says, my goodness, the Dodgers are straight playing Jenna with their pitching staff. Uh-oh. What are we doing? What did I miss, Gary? Because I see the 5-2. I know that. Do I need to refresh? They've got Yamamoto. And they went to Phillips. Yamamoto threw 73 pitches. So that's pretty much in line with what he's been throwing since July. Eight Ks in 4 1/3 Jenga. There you go. Thank you. I was like, I don't understand the Jenna reference. But yeah, they're... Dude, Dave Roberts always makes too many moves though. So it's gonna be like that. But yeah, wild. I don't know. Another Ohtani homer in this one too. They're juggling everyone. Dude, here's the thing. Well, yeah, that's it. Ron says saving his legs would work in right field as well. I get that, but like not as much. You're still running out to, I know that sounds wild, but you are still running out. Trust me. I even know the difference between running out to the outfield, and I gave up on the outfield at a certain age. And I'm not in his shape, I understand, but the fields I play on are also smaller slightly. But I think playing right field, it's still going to be taxing on his legs. However, I'm not against him playing. I'm not against him playing left field or right field. I'm not. I just like the potential of first base for that reason. I think you save his legs, he hits 30 homers, and possibly. We looked at the numbers. Possibly he's even closer to 300. I mean, he's such a good hitter, and I just think he has potential. He's to be such a better hitter with his legs under him, the way that he sits into his stance like that. I just think it's all there. All right, guys. Gary says you're gonna hate me, but I want to see a Yankees versus Dodgers World Series. Now, you probably have motives there. I'm guessing. Maybe not. Maybe I'm reading into that a little too much, Gary. Maybe you don't have motives. I would actually like a Yankees Dodgers as well. I think I always look at the postseason from my position. I always look at it as how can baseball most benefit from a World Series. I think a Subway Series would be bad. I think it would be absolutely mega in New York and in surrounding areas, and maybe the diehards. But like, you lose half the country at that point, baseball's over. I think with an East versus West, you got to, the big money, you got Ohtani and Judge and Betts and Soto and the whole thing. I think that like that star power carries a lot of weight for the game and for the fans and all that stuff. I actually don't like the way that the Mets are playing this underdog story. Dude, you spend all that money. You got to back off your money in order to win. But yeah, Gary, you're saying the same thing. It's the vast majority of players I want to see. I think that's big. That's just such a big thing with having that many guys. I don't know. I'm in that too. I like that. What I don't want is yeah, that's another good point, Gary. This is a fan comment right here. We like these. Plus, I want Cole to get one. 100%, man. I want that too for him. And like I said, both of these teams, like, we can say all we want about money and how they're always going to be, but like we just talked about how the Dodgers have one World Series championship since 1988. Like, they're not what we claim them to be. They just have money. And same with the Yankees. Like, they haven't won since 2009. Now, the Yankees are the Yankees. They kind of have to be good eventually in order to be the evil empire. Like, they won 3 in a row at the end of the 90s. They haven't done that. They haven't been that kind of a team. Teams seem to get smart and play against them, and they really haven't done the smart thing well. And Dodgers have. I actually have I'll say it now, but I had a closing remark because of the Dodgers and everything is Moneyball died when the Dodgers started doing it better than the lesser teams. And it was just like the Dodgers just do everything right. They've got the money to spend on those guys, but they also do well at trading. They do well at drafting. They do well at developing. They bring them up. They trade what they need for. They had an opportunity to get so many guys. They've passed up to stay with their guys. They've also had the opportunity to let so many guys go and to trade so many guys. And they've ended up with Trey Turner and Mookie Betts and, the whole 9 yards. Like they're not being outsmarted just because they've got more money. They actually care about the smart part of it too. And that's where it's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Bucko Mike says Guards versus Mets. I think the Guardians would be good against either team because either way, you're getting the little guy versus the big guy. And yes, to me, the Mets are a big guy. They just met themselves all the time. But the Dodgers or the Guard, I think that is still a very good series because I think you get a lot of people. I think you get a lot of people still rooting for that. But yeah, this is it, man. Gary says Freeman would be my feel good story for the Dodgers and the baseball world. The global game would love Shohei. I didn't even mention Freddie Freeman. Shame on me. Definitely would be the good feel-good story of the whole thing. And he's one of the good guys of baseball. He's certainly one of the good guys of baseball. He's one of those guys that he could play on the team you hate the most and you'd still be like, I hate that team. Freddie's all right. I mean, I feel like he played for the Dodgers or the Braves for a long time. And I was like, Freddie's all right though. He's just one of the good guys. There's a lot of guys I feel that way about that a lot of Pirates fans do not. Oh my, Mookie Betts. 2-run homer. I get it on my screen first. Dodgers are just putting this thing out of reach now. 7-2. Mookie Betts with a homer. They're getting it from all the stars. Mookie, Ohtani. Freeman's just been playing hurt. He's not even in this game. Anyway. Yeah. I think it would be good. I mean, I don't hate Judge either while we're talking about those guys. I think he's a lot of fun. I can't stand Stanton. My wife disagrees with that one. She likes Giancarlo Stanton. So, well, I was like, really? Oh boy. Anyway, I think this postseason has been awesome, and I understand. It's funny because early in the postseason, if you're following along and you're listening to the show all the time, early in this postseason, I even said all these division winners, all these big money teams are about to get knocked off. Mostly meaning it was really just the Dodgers and the Phillies, and you know what I mean. I know it was kind of at the hand of the Mets, but the American League side, you had Detroit and for those of you on video, this is actually oh my gosh. There was one yep, he's always got his butt at the camera. More so than anyone with the closed stance. We've always laughed since we've been doing this podcast. This is for the real ones who are still listening here at 20 after 10. We've always laughed about having an episode that Katie, my wife, and Ashley, Jake's wife, would come on and do an episode of this show for us. Now, Ashley's a Braves fan, so you guys would have to really, really hear that one. But they would coin that episode Bridge to Buctober, and they would share the top 10 butts in baseball. I don't know if our listeners are in for something like that, so we've never done it. But Gary brought it up, so.
Dang it, Bobby.
Yeah.
This is fine.
That's it. So I'll cheer for Cole if the Yanks give us Volpe and a prospect for broken back Hayes and his $7 million. Dude, $7 million is chump change. That's not a big contract. Like, we have a very fair contract for Ke'Bryan Hayes. $7 million, like, Fangraphs had, whoa. Yeah, that's a Prince. That's a, yeah. Prince Fielder, Gary says. That's a big one. I mean, Kutch is on that list, I would imagine. Anyway, where was I at? Yeah, $7 million, dude. Like, that's one WAR. $6.7 million is where Fangraphs labels 1.0 FWAR. $6.7 million. Hayes is worth 1.2 just defensively every year, it seems like. So he starts from there. I maybe more than that. I don't really know how far WAR goes into it, especially F WAR versus B WAR. I don't know. I look at the numbers to compare things, but I don't know. But either way, like $7 million, that's a 1.1 WAR player. 1.05 WAR player is worth $7 million in this league. In the free agent market anyway. And he has a major league contract. So that is not an expensive contract. We are not overpaying that man. That is a very fair contract. That's all. I don't know if I still have that up. We just looked things up here. So terrible season, and he had a 0.8 WAR. Like, he's almost worth that money there. But he's been worth that. So I don't know how we can complain about a $7 million contract and say, Bob, you should spend more money in the same sentence. I don't know how we do it. Like, I just don't get it. No, I mean, I know you're saying defensively you count half of WAR. That's fine. What I'm saying is when you talk about value of a player in their contract and they say that 1.0 WAR is worth $6.7 million on the free agent market right now. He's had a 2.6 and a 2.3 in the last 2 years, making $10 million. That's fair. He dropped to $7 million. Now these are baseball reference numbers, but they're not much different. But he's $7 million until 2028, and he only goes up to $8 million, and then the team option is for 2030. I mean, you trade him before that option hits anyway, so at least you better. This team can't afford to let people go to free agency. You have to trade him. But I'm just saying, if he's worth that, $7 million is not a lot of money. It's just not. Anyway, that's not a lot of money. And Gary says, I feel fortunate the Pirates have depth at third. If they manage Hayes well, they have worse positions. 100%. I mean, if they can do it and they can keep him there, his defense is going to help. If you rest him enough, you can get him back. I don't know. He's got to get better. He's got to be able to. Yeah, I mean, Gary says Hedges makes $5 million for nothing but D, and McCutchen makes $5 million for nothing but offense. But either way, McCutchen was worth more than that too. I'm not looking at F4 because I'm just used to Baseball Reference. It's just up all the time. Fangraph's a little harder to me. So McCutchen 0.8 WAR. He's worth about $5 million. Like, he's not playing defense, so he's worth about $5 million. Yeah, I don't know how you argue that much. Quit saying spend money. That's like garlic to a vampire for nutting. I don't know, man. I don't know. I get the 4 months of season, Bucko Mike. I get it. I know you don't like him, and that's fine. You don't have to. But he's not. It's $7 million is just not a lot of money. That's all I'm saying. In the grand scheme of things, it's not like he's got some albatross. He doesn't have a Pablo Sandoval contract, and he's hurt even more than what he is. So I don't really know. Certainly he needs to be better. You know what I mean? He needs to be better. But Gary asks, is Gonzalez a surefire starter, for-sure starter, same thing. The team builder in me says yes, but if you want to improve, don't you upgrade? I think for me, Gonzalez is a player that I think he's a major league player. I don't think he's like, he's a supporting cast type player for me. He plays a position that I'm okay with, what he's doing. And I know I don't like, positional identities, so to speak. So long as shortstops can hit for power, I don't care what your first baseman can do if he's just good. But yeah, either way, I guess for us it's center field, which is the same thing. Until his alarm goes off for work in the morning. I love it, Gary. I love it. But as far as Gonzalez for me, I think that there are places I would upgrade before that. So if you want to go down the line and you still got money and you could upgrade at second base, I think it's there, but I don't know. Ron says Gonzo second base until TJ is ready. Then he's traded. Yeah, sure. I mean, you don't know who else might work out. Like Nick York might end up being a dude. And then you have somebody that's expendable, and it could be Peguero. I mean, we talked about prior to this year and really maybe even parts of last year, we talked about a potential for Peguero to be a 20 homer guy. And we haven't seen that come to fruition yet, but like any of these guys can then turn it on. Like they're always trying to get better. And we're talking about a group of young players that are trying to get better. And we have to realize that, eventually it could click for any of these guys at 27 years old. I mean, we're watching Lane Thomas and some of these guys in the postseason do good things, and they weren't good players until they were 26, 27 years old. So, there's plenty of time for a lot of these guys. That doesn't mean that they're going to be good here. You got rid of Jose Bautista, and look what happened to that. I mean, obviously that's just an outlier, but you always kind of thought that like maybe Travis Snyder would turn into that, and he didn't. I mean, he was still a good player, but you just don't know. Nick York, Freddie Sanchez 2.0. We've talked about this too, and we looked up some stuff. I mean, that's a really good comp for Nick York. If he can get to his, to be a really good player, I think he could be a Freddie Sanchez caliber player. Ron, I will go back to you saying though, Termarr Johnson, I don't know how close he really is. He doesn't have to be protected. He doesn't have to be added to the 40 man until 2027, till the winter of 2026. So not until the 2027 year. Maybe he gets added before then, but he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be protected until then. So you could be talking a couple, 2-3 years. But as far as to go back to the Nick Gonzalez thing, because I want to answer that all the way. First and foremost, shortstop, left field, or first base. I think whatever one you get, you go. I think if you can get a left fielder, you get a left fielder, but you don't commit Reynolds to first until maybe there's a secondary player. Do you replace somebody in right field? I think that with the power potential of Sawinski and Brian De La Cruz, I think that the Pirates will be motivated to give them a chance if they can't upgrade it. If they can upgrade it, both of them have options. You can send them to AAA. I don't think that they give up on them, but I think that they will focus on those two players first and then go there. And then if you get that upgraded, then I think you can focus on second base if you feel like it. I don't see them making that many moves. But I don't know. I think Nick Gonzalez is a major league player. And so I think he's supporting cast. He's also good with runners in scoring position. So there's that. Not many of our players are. So I like that out of him. But I can name starters. Gary says I can name starters all over the diamond. Two that I feel that I feel could start just about anywhere. I'd like to see that at 4 or 5. Okay. You mean, and what Gary's saying is could start anywhere. He means on any other team, not any other position, I believe. Do you think there's only 2 that you feel could start just about anywhere? I would imagine you mean Cruz and Reynolds. I think Gonzalez is there. I think Hayes is there. But it also just depends on who else they have. Like I said, I think they're major league players, but I don't think that they're necessarily like, you're not going to, I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. You're talking about second base. Yeah. And it was Reynolds and Cruz. You're talking about second base. And so like, I guess it matters what the rest of your roster looks like. Would you rather have Nick Gonzalez or would you rather have Jimenez that's playing for Cleveland? This is a guy who's going to win. I mean, he's probably going to win his 3rd Gold Glove this year. He's already been platinum. But it's second base. If that's shortstop, hands down, I'll take a 200 hitter who's not very good at the plate for that kind of defense. But I don't know. Like if you need a little more pop from your bat to round out the offense, I think you'd rather go with Nick Gonzalez and just put in Jimenez late in the game. I don't know. Yeah. And Gary, that's true. You're saying could grow into it, of course, just saying right now. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. This is going to be a big year for Nick Gonzalez. If he gets the opportunity, it's going to be a big year. I feel like he didn't get the opportunity in 23. When given the opportunity, I felt like he did a good job of grabbing a hold of it. I mean, at one point, he was the only player on our team that could drive in a run. It felt like, well, nobody else can do this, but Nick Gonzalez is playing today, so we have a chance to score a couple runs. So I don't know. I mean, if it's a guy that can carry it for a couple days, I don't know if I'd go as far as putting him at like the Neil Walker level. I thought Neil Walker was more consistent. So I don't want to go that far. I don't think Neil Walker was a star. I think he was a complimentary player, but he was better than that, better than what we've seen from Nick Gonzalez. The power was there. And I don't think you'll get that from Nicky G. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I think I think the second base could be on the list. And if it is, that's an interesting position because there's so much depth there. But I was on Buctober a little while ago with Adam and we were kind of talking about a lot of this stuff. And I said, hey, you're building a lot of depth. You are, but depth only really means a whole lot if you have starters. And maybe that's the second base position because you could make a case for Gonzalez, Peguero, Triolo, Nick York even. You can go across that list and say that they're all there, but or even IKF. But are any of those like hands down starters? It's a good question. I guess one of the ways to ask the question, today's game is driven by offense. So like you could talk about defense till you're blue in the face. I hate it because I'm a defensive guy, small ball. When I grew up, I was a 2-hitter, a 6-hitter, something like that. Or I'd be at the bottom and like second leadoff type stuff. But I was a bunter, right? So leadoff guy gets on, I'm bunting. We don't have to give me the sign. I'm bunting. I'm moving this guy up because we thought that was the best way to score runs. If I did get on, I was stealing. Every time I'm stealing. This game is not played that way right now. You need offense. You need offense all the way through the lineup. So when you're looking at these guys and trying to decide, are they a starter or not? Maybe some of that question is, would I put this guy at DH for his bat? And I mean, I said earlier that I wouldn't with Hayes. So that's kind of an interesting one. But I wouldn't with Nick Gonzalez. For a day off, I would. That's fine. Yeah. But if I had Jimenez, I'd probably pick one or the other. I don't think I'd play Jimenez and bat. I don't think Nick Gonzalez would be a guy to do that with. Man, that's a good point. we'll wrap this thing up. Gary says, it's hard to grow starters when you play bingo with the lineup every day. Need to see more stretches of guys. Give them a chance to win a spot. Triolo got one. Yeah, and you know what? Triolo kind of blew it. Well, I would say he did it second, but maybe at third at the end of the year. It's quite the opposite. But yeah, I'd like to see more runs. And these guys that you think might be starters, kind of like maybe, what you saw with Peguero, who's a possibility to be a starter at some point if things click. He stayed in AAA and played every day instead of playing part-time in the majors. And so I think there's a lot there. We got guys with options. You got to use them. Peguero's one of them. He got a fourth option. He can be in AAA. This team could be deep if they move and get a new shortstop. And if they don't trade a bunch of guys, but if they're able to move enough or go free agency and get a shortstop and an outfielder for one of those positions with Reynolds in the other, or Reynolds at first and get two outfielders, or trust. I still think you can go into next season with Jack Swinsky and BDLC in the mix. And I think that you can have enough time to know, okay, they're not working. That's the move I'll make at the deadline. If you make a move in right field in the offseason, you're better off. If it's a reliable guy that you actually get, then you're better off. And then maybe you can say, if Nick Gonzalez isn't getting it done and we need to get a second baseman, you go after that. So, I mean, either way, you're going to do it. But you're going to have one position that you're going to take a chance on, knowing that you'll have an opportunity in season to get somebody who's already doing well. At least that's the way I would do it. I would leave that up for one. And I'm okay with going into next season with Sawinski and BDLC in right field. Power is expensive, and those guys have the potential to click and hit for power. Both of those guys have 30 homer potential, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So you can always make a move in July and in June or July whenever you need to do it. And I think Ben, if his job really is on the line this year, maybe he'll move quicker than later. So I don't know. It's a good question. So, all right, that's all I have. I'm going to double down on something here at the end. We talked a little bit, me and Gary on Sunday. You can go back and listen to that one. Great conversation there with Gary on Sunday. But we talked a little bit about celebrating the past, and the Pirates have been doing it a little bit more this week. And, man, we should be celebrating the history of this team. This is one of the most historic teams in baseball. And if anybody else is going to celebrate it, then we have to as well. I understand about short term. But celebrate those 5 championships. Celebrate the history of the players that we've had here, because it's worth it. Because this franchise in the past has been that good and can be good again. I believe it. All right, done with that stuff. Thanks, guys.
I'm bummed out.
I'm not. Let's go, Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks!